We are honored to have back Commander Salamander. He's in high demand right now, and we're thankful that he took some time out of his busy day to speak with us here at Armed Forces Press. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Oh, glad to, Todd. I appreciate the opportunity again.
So let's just get right to it. A lot going on, obviously, in the Persian Gulf. I spent time over there landing on LPDs back in the day. USS Nashville comes to mind in the Persian Gulf. But so I have some experience there, but you have a lot more knowledge of naval matters than me. But how do you see what's happening going down over there right now?
Well, when we first kicked this off, it became really apparent that, this, because there weren't any significant ground forces going anywhere, this was going to be a punitive expedition. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that, if there's just going to be nautical Navy with aircraft carriers, with one carrier present. At that time, when it first kicked off, the fort is in the Eastern Mediterranean, really too far away from Iran. And Iran's huge. It's the size of, I saw an interesting comparison. It's the size of the Louisiana Purchase and the land that we got from Mexico from the Mexican-American War. It's big,
it's
much
massive,
bigger,
yes.
Much bigger than Iraq. And it's got 3,000-4,000 years of history. So yeah, it's a different thing. But to really sustain an operation like we've seen, you have to have land-based forces just from a logistics point of view. And with the Israeli Air Force full form and the U.S. Air Force coming along as well, we've gone from what would be a quick punitive expedition that is looking like a sustained air campaign that has the goal of degrading the Iranian military and their government and their leadership to the point that if we do decide that we've done enough and walk away and nothing significant happens, that we've bought even more time for events to be more favorable than we did when we hit their nuclear program a while ago. And all I know is what's open source. And there's a lot that we'll all read about a few years now that help lead to this decision. But I have to temper all that with the longer this goes on, the more concerned I get, because you are just one magic BB away or one mechanical failure away from having air crew on the ground in Iran in unfriendly hands. And that opens all sorts of unpleasant possibilities there. But so far, that hasn't happened. In my brainstem, I'm older cohort Gen X. So I remember as a preteen watching, 440 days, 444 days, a hostage crisis. And we've been waiting. As a young kid, I saw entire football stadiums calling for Iran to be struck when Carter and Reagan was president. So there's a little bit of that brainstem nodding my head, liking what I'm seeing. But that's tempered with, I think, a more adult concern, the fact that this is not a small operation with small risks. There's a lot to be concerned about.
I agree. And I have that brainstem too. I mean, in fact, the career I went into flying MH-53s was that aircraft was based or created to do that mission, which failed. Yep. And the Marines had great pilots and a lot of great people, but they just didn't have the training or the equipment to do that mission. Long range insertion, extraction, sand, threats, no air refueling. I mean, it was a mess. What do you see? Well, and that brings me to CSAR. I'm sure we have combat search and rescue assets standing by.
I hope
that's been a problem thought for me. And I guess it's V-22 faster, get in there. But what do you see happening in the Persian Gulf right now? My understanding is their Navy's non-existent. They do have a lot of small attack boats, though, which, they've been known to fire like exocet type stuff on there. I don't know if they're at the hypersonic level yet there, but what say you?
Well, when you had a campaign that's been going on this long, I mean, you have different tiers of targets that you're going to, as a cool kid say, serve the target. You're going to strike them. You're going to hit them. And we're far enough in the campaign that we're into that third and the fourth level of a campaign where you're looking for things to hit and things to strike. And those small boats, those fast boats, I would classify that as a fourth tier target. And we're in that fourth tier scene. And kind of like when I was trying to get my arms around the mine warfare threat, because, like you as a JO, after I got my commission in the late 80s on, mine warfare, we all know that more American warships since World War II have been, hit by mines than any other weapon. It's a serious threat. It's a big threat. We really made an effort to make sure we weren't concerned about that. But when you so own the airspace and you have intelligence asset, long dwell ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and you have, when I was in SITCOM almost 2 decades ago, all the different O plans in the Iran shop were on multiple revisions. I mean, we've been looking at it for a long time. We know where things are, and we've been able to hit them long enough now that just looking at the mines, we know where the mines, we think we know, or have a good idea, where the mines are stored, how they're transported, which piers they're going to go to, which ships would be able to carry them. And from day one, we've made a big effort to hit their naval facilities and their Navy and their ships. We even torpedoed one off of Sri Lanka. I keep wanting to call it Ceylon. Can you tell I've been reading some 19th century British stuff? So I think they would love to be able to mine the Straits of Hormuz, but I think at this stage of the game, they would have had to have that stuff pre-positioned at sea and us not know about it. And with each passing day that we don't see mines floating, and the fact that our mine warfare capabilities that we do have are a week's steaming away, I think we may have been on a lot of good and a little bit of luck that maybe it's not the threat that we grew up thinking it was going to be. Not because it disappeared, but because the intel people and the targeteers did a good job taking care of it before it got to sea. That's my optimistic hope there.
So we're in a new age of warfare, right? What about drones? And I was told, well, let me take a step back. I'd like to get your opinion on the littoral ships, because all of a sudden they're being said, oh, they're minesweepers now. That's a joke, right?
Well, they have back when the whole littoral combat ship, which by the way cannot conduct combat operations in the littoral, which is always
which is what the Persian Gulf is, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah. And when you actually pull the thread on when they developed the concept for that, it was all in response to the fast boats and all the stuff that the Iranians had in the late from 1979 on. Anyway, they were supposed to have all these different mission modules. They all have been a different variation of a dog's breakfast, but on paper and as it's briefed, the mine warfare module is the one that was the most mature. And in theory, it can do mine warfare. But the long pole in the tent is you've got to have the EOD people there. You have to have the sensors there. You have to have a permissive environment in order to do it. And the littoral combat ship, as I wrote about a few days ago, they're over in Malaysia in Butterworth, which if anybody knows folks in the Australian military, ask them about Butterworth. It's a great liberty spot, though I doubt they're getting much liberty right now. But it's almost, depending on whether you're going 15 or 20 knots speed of advance, it's 6 to 7 days steaming away from the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz. That tells me that they just want them out of the way. They don't need them. The mines aren't a threat. The littoral combat ships, they can't really defend themselves in that environment. And you mentioned the drones. Now, what we saw it's funny. When we were kids, before the Iranian Revolution and everything, it was the Persian Gulf. And then when we needed to make friends with the Arabs, it became the Arabian Gulf. Now we're
Yeah.
calling it the Persian Gulf all over. I prefer to call it the Persian Gulf. That way you don't confuse it with the Arabian Sea, which is over to the southeast of the Strait of Hormuz. But in the northern Arabian Gulf last week, there were a couple of tankers that were transferring fuel that were hit from what they believe or what we've seen in the Black Sea a lot, which are those unmanned surface vessels, attack drones, whatever you want to talk.
Yeah.
They're basically some variation between a ski-doo and a small fishing boat turned into a drone that drives itself into the side of the ship and goes boom. And that's up in the northern Arabian Gulf, maybe based out of Kharg Island or somewhere around there. But besides that one thing, I haven't seen anything in open source that has talked about other successful attacks at sea. Definitely not against a warship. There was a report that there was a small boat, I don't know whether it was manned or not, that one of our destroyers had trouble taking it out with the 5-inch gun, but the Hilo Bubba's got a chance to get an anti-surface strike, and they took it out. So that's helpful. However, we're still seeing the I call them the flying lawnmower that hasn't gotten any traction, but I'll call them flying lawnmowers. The Shaheed drone that everybody likes to hear.
Yes.
Supposedly they're having a jet powered one, but that makes it more expensive. But the Shaheed drones are still hitting Dubai. I assume they're hitting Qatar, but those. If people aren't familiar with the Shaheed, they've been used a lot in the Ukraine war. Initially, the Russians bought them from the Iranians, and now the Russians are producing their own. The Ukrainians gave us a few copies, I assume, and we have a small defense startup company that's making our own clones of it that we've actually used in combat. And the great thing about those, and if those aren't familiar with them, in roughly your standard issue Connex box, i.e. what you see a semi truck pulling behind them, or a container ship has containers in them.
Yeah.
They hold, I'm plus or minus a couple here. I should know this off the top of my head, but I think they can hold about 10 of those stacked like so many Lay's potato chips. And then they pop it up and can launch it off there. So they're very easy to hide. They don't need a bunch of prep to launch because they literally have a large remote control airplane looking motor on the back. That anybody who's had a remote control airplane, just make that 10 size larger, and that's the size that little prop job is. And you can hide them anywhere. They could be dressed up as a FedEx truck, and then boop, there they go. So those, I think, we will continue to see leak all over the place because the Iranians, from what I've seen, were pretty good at dispersing those. But it's onesies and twosies now. It's not what we saw in the first 3 or 4 days of conflict.
Yeah. Interesting. What about drone? I was told that we don't really need minesweepers anymore because once you see a mine, you can send a drone, underwater drone, to take care of it instead of a ship or a frogman or whatever.
That works.
Any guy, but
that works well on video games and on PowerPoint presentations and on the presentation I saw at the Surface Navy Association. But it's not that simple.
Yeah. Okay.
If you have a very flat, empty piece of an exercise ground where you've put a training mine and it's the only thing out there, then yeah, it's easy to find. But we are still finding mines in the Baltic Sea right now from World War II. Yeah. Because in the Baltic Sea, it's got about 1,000 years worth of sunk ships, airplanes, various detritus in the water. It's not easy to find those mines, especially the modern ones, and they don't cover that much territory. And you also have the issue with floating mines, which can be something as simple as everybody's familiar with the old, it's 100-year-old plus, really 130-year-old. I forget what mark it is, but it's basically your standard issue video game mind that's round with a bunch of horns on it.
Divorce is tough, but your finances don't have to be. I'm David Cross, and I'm a certified divorce financial analyst practitioner. My job is to help you get a fair financial settlement in your divorce and to guide you to smarter money decisions. Find out how we can help you. U.S. Asset Management. It's your money and your future.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. We're going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Naval. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Naval, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Naval is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Right.
That usually have a mooring cable that connects them to the deck, and there's a great art to the seabed. And there's a great art of, you know, if the water is 5 fathoms deep, you want the chain to be 4 fathoms, so it's right. Or you can be lazy and just not even have a chain and cut them and let them float around. And those are the easiest ones to avoid. But there are more modern mines out there that are more of a concern.
Okay, so there was a fire on the USS Ford. I read something today that it may be a crew member that was disgruntled or something. Do you know anything about that?
I haven't seen anything substantial about that. I could see where that rumor could start, and it may very well be that had been something that took place. However, 2 things will get a sailor more excited than anything else. One is the smell of smoke, especially if it smells like electrical, or 2 is running water. Because ships burn easily. And they also are floating around in water. So running water and smoke, you'll have, if anybody, and there's plenty of videos online, when a ship goes to general quarters, it's an impressive thing to see. Everybody can be just having a standard issue day at sea, and you get just the first 2 bells go, and people literally drop coffee cups, run down P-ways with one shoe. One side of the ship goes one way, the other side of the ship goes up way. One side of the ship goes down ladders, other side of the ship goes up ladders. It's an impressive ballet. We train all the time because these things happen. And the laundry rooms and the various lockers where we store cleaning material are common places for fires, because if you take a bunch of oily rags on a warship, you have a lot of oily rags. And if you don't store them properly or clean them properly, if you just put a bunch of oily rags in a pile, and when you say oily rags, oils, solvents, everything, chemistry is chemistry. It's going to smolder and maybe catch fire. People in their houses have lint fires, except, on a carrier, you got 5,500 people doing laundry. You can have a lint fire. And once that catches fire, it can spread really fast, especially a modern warship that's not rigged for combat. People might be familiar if they've read some of the stories about the British as they prepared for the Falkland Islands campaign. They did the same thing people did before, in World War II as well, is you have your ship that operates in normal peacetime. Once you have a fire and you're going into the combat, you're ripping up linoleum, you're tearing anything that's wood goes over the side. You're down to bare metal, because when you're in a warship, you look up, you see all these pipes. Some of those pipes are carrying water. Some of those pipes are carrying electrical conduit. A lot of the pipes are carrying sewage, and some of them is carrying fuel. And there's no place to have a easy fire or a safe fire. So until we get something really firm, I would just assume that this was probably, if you held a gun to my head, I would say it was either a mechanical short, or you have your checkoff list at X number of hours. Seaman Schmuckatelli is supposed to go in and clean the lint filters, and he didn't clean the lint filters, and his supervisor didn't check to make sure that he signed off on the lint filters being checked. And so they got clogged and they caught fire. So that's where I would put my $20 if I was going to make a bet on what happened there.
Makes sense. Last question on the Persian Gulf. Kharg Island, obviously a Marine unit, expeditionary unit, or whatever it's called, is on the way. 2,500 soldiers. What should people be aware of if the president does decide to, occupy that island for temporary reasons? They're still under threat, right? I mean, missile fire, all kinds of stuff.
And you're really close to shore. Infiltration could be an issue, but we have such mastery of the air right now. You could probably, put a pretty good sanitary cordon around it. We a few days ago struck the military facilities on Kharg Island. We had to be careful about that, because it was struck a few times during the Iran-Iraq war, but north of 90% of Iran's oil and gas go off of Kharg Island.
Yes.
And I saw online via a couple of sources, so I think it's valid, the Iranian embassy in Denmark ran up the imperial Iranian flag that has the sun and the lion on it. That was the Shah's flag. So what if a week from now you had a government that is a neutral government, kind of like we see in Venezuela right now, and you want to make sure that government can start getting money come in there to get the food and everything else that a nation needs, so we don't wind up paying for it. If we had totally carpet bombed Kharg Island, you would have KBR would come over there and tell you, well, for $30 billion, I can get 50% capacity running by the end of second quarter of fiscal year 2027. And that's not good. Now, what would it take to take that island if somebody made the decision to do it? You're close enough to Kuwait. You could actually do helicopter-borne assault could be an option. Coming from the sea could be an option. It all depends upon what the military threat is still on that island that you would want to seize it. We're at a stage of the operation right now that I think the only reason you could justify, at least if, again, I don't have access to anything that might change my mind, but knowing what I know, I guess is a easy way to say it. Knowing what I know at the moment, I think the only way you would want to risk the casualties you would take to seize Kharg Island would be if Iran was in a transitionary period and you had indications and warnings that the Revolutionary Guard, in a last act of spite, was going to sabotage and blow up the oil facilities at Kharg Island. So whoever takes over won't have that. And we wanted to secure that for the future Iranian government. Besides that,
like Kuwait back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. When the Iraqis were blowing off the oil wells.
Okay, last question. China, they're sitting back watching. What are they thinking, do you think?
Well, I think they've got their intel shop doing a good accounting of how many THAAD missiles we have fired, how many missiles we think we've intercepted, how our SM-3s, our SM-6s at sea have done. what we have used to take down the short range and the intermediate range ballistic missiles, the various cruise missiles, and probably looking really hard about their capability to do the same, but also doing the hard math about how long we could sustain the fight and how long it will take for us in our industry to recapitalize and refill our magazines. Because a lot of these missiles like THAAD, these are exquisite, almost boutique items. They're great missiles, but they take a long time to build. And we kind of lost, people forget, one reason we won World War II, especially on the ground, and I wrote about it this morning, but Shimon Shanker over at Palantir and Ms. Zim, who I forgot her first name, they co-authored a book that come out right now, really putting in book form what a lot of people, not just our friends from Palantir, but other people have been calling for a long time, is like the B-24 was designed to be built by people who build automobiles. The Sherman tank wasn't the best tank in the world, but could be produced in numbers and could be maintained better than the Tigers and the King Tigers and the Panther tanks they were fighting. We've kind of become World War II Germany in the fact that we're building the best things, but they're not being designed such that they can be built at an extended wartime capacity. And I blame that in a lot of ways, especially in the last 20 years. I think it's kind of a coping mechanism. An industrial psychiatrist might better explain it. But there are a lot of people that would talk about a 72-hour war where we just need to design a military that if the Chinese decided they wanted to go after Taiwan or somebody else, that in the first 72 hours, we could hit them with so much stuff, so hard, so fast, so well, that will deter them from doing it. Or if they do it, will blunt them. I'm pretty sure, though, that was kind of the brief that Putin was given by the Russians in 22. And that didn't quite play out for them. And people have come to the realization that should we have a fight west of the international date line, this is not going to be a fight measured in weeks or months. This isn't going to be what we're doing right now against Iran, which is a fourth-tier power. People's Republic of China is a first-tier power. But this is something that's going to go for months and maybe years. So we need other things that we can build at scale, because at D+45, a month and a half after conflict starts, we can't have a training timeout with the Chinese and say, well, let's rebuild and fight again. It doesn't work that way. So we've got to find a way that from an industrial capacity, should we find ourselves by intention, accident, or just history takes its turn of the cards. If we find ourselves in an extended conflict west of the international date line, we have set the conditions such that our nation can fight that war and persevere. Because the only thing worse than getting yourself in a war in the Western Pacific is losing that war in the Western Pacific. And we've got to change the way we do things from an industrial capacity point of view so we can be prepared for that fight should history give us that card.
Well, I went with Secretary Hegseth on the Doomsday plane out to LA, and we visited several amazing firms, Rocket Lab, but Divergent, Castellian, but they are building at scale, 3D printed hypersonic missiles at very cheap cost. It's really amazing to see. And so I think the Pentagon is on it, but they got a long road to hoe here.
Yeah,
so,
the clock's ticking too.
Yeah. Commander, thank you for your time. Anything else you want to get out?
No.
Tell us about your show. Tell us about Mid-Rats.
Yeah, well, we the Mid-Rats podcast, we usually do it. We do it live on Sundays and we upload it. So anywhere you get your podcast, you can look up at the Mid-Rats podcast. We have some interesting guests lined up pretty soon. And we got an inventory of shows going back 17 years. people can pick from. But I co-host it with Mark Tempest, who also writes over at the Eagle Speak blog. He's one of the guys that started writing with me back in the old days in 2004.
Yes, back in the day. Thank you, Commander. We'll have you back down the road. Appreciate your insight.
Appreciate it, Todd. Have a great week.
Take care.